The city of Philadelphia has a long and distinguished tradition of bibliophily. In the collecting of medieval and Renaissance manuscripts, names such as John Frederick Lewis, Peter Widener, his son Joseph Widener, and A.S.W. Rosenbach are well known, and deservedly so. These men gave important manuscripts to institutions in the city of brotherly love, but their prominent names as donors have served to obscure the name of another Philadelphia bibliophile, George Clifford Thomas. I hope that the results of this presentation will be a better appreciation of the integral role played by one of Philadelphia's greatest book collectors, which has been lost in the transition of his private library into a number of world-renowned public institutions. George Thomas, like so many American collectors of the Golden Age, was a wealthy industrialist. He was a partner in the banking house of Drexel and Morgan. Like many of his contemporaries, Thomas's collecting started with art and prints and grew to include manuscripts. He was a member of the Philadelphia Print Club and of Philobiblon, the area's society of book lovers. In this photograph of his library, you can see the prominence given to his art collection. Thomas's book collection was equally wide-ranging. He published in 1907, 2 years before his death, a privately printed catalogue of his book collection. Like most such privately published works, his catalogue is not encumbered with bibliographical specifics, but is heavy on the anecdotal. The first section, General Literature, is followed by sections on testaments and prayer books, missals and books of hours, Bibles, including an Eliot Indian Bible, Shakespeare, including the first, second, third, and fourth folios, bindings, original drawings, Dickens and autograph letters, and manuscripts, including a complete set of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. There is every reason that Thomas's library has been described as a rich man's collection of high spots. But by starting with this 1907 private catalog and linking data to other records in the Schoenberg database of manuscripts, we can learn more about patterns in Thomas's collecting. It becomes readily apparent, for example, that most of the best medieval manuscripts were acquired after 1901, some as late as 1906. Typical is this manuscript book of hours of the use of Reims, now in the Free Library of Philadelphia. It was in the London sale of Edward Quayle in May 1901, and after Thomas's death it was acquired by Peter Widener from Rosenbach in November 1910. What may have made this Edward Quayle manuscript an easy sell to Thomas was its use by Quayle as an example in his 1897 publication Illuminated Manuscripts, where it is reproduced in 7 separate plates. This is the first of 3 examples where I can demonstrate the pivotal role played by a private publication linked to a Thomas manuscript. Quails Sketch was published by the Liverpool booksellers Henry Young, and Quayle's argument is illustrated entirely from manuscripts in his own collection. The description of this manuscript in Thomas's catalogue repeats the now disproved assertion by Quayle of previous French royal ownership, which is not included in the 1901 Sotheby's description, so a copy of Quayle's publication must have accompanied the manuscript into Thomas's library. A month after the Quayle sale, the Ashburn Bear sale took place in London. This is one of a group of 6 leaves by the English illuminator William de Brailes, which were in Thomas's collection by 1907, and afterwards passed through Rosenbach to Sir Alfred Chester Beatty. The Decosta Book of Hours was acquired by Thomas from Bernard Quaritch after 1905. It had been the subject of a publication by Quaritch in that year. This publication is quoted in Thomas's privately printed catalogue of 1907, just as the Edward Quayle description was used in my first example. One might wonder if Thomas had any doubts about the impartiality of booksellers' descriptions, but apparently not. The Quaritch publication, which you saw in the last slide, was actually reprinted verbatim by Thomas in 1908, with the addition of "now in the possession of George C. Thomas" on the title page. and Thomas's name is in type at least as large as the artists to whom the manuscript is attributed. One final and very brief example demonstrates that Thomas went on acquiring manuscripts after his catalogue was published in 1907. The Book of the Castle of Labour has been considered George Thomas's greatest manuscript. Linked to this manuscript is this third example of a privately printed pamphlet which appeared in 1909, the year that Thomas died, and by October 1910, again through the intervention of Rosenbach, it was in the collection of Peter Widener. Manuscript studies in the digital age have been facilitated by the digitization of the manuscripts themselves and by linked data tools like the Schoenberg database. I hope these examples illustrate the value of adding complementary references to the Schoenberg database, and also that this process has brought George Thomas into greater prominence as a Philadelphia collector of the first rank, even though his library is now scattered well beyond the city of brotherly love.